Qin Mu turned his head and froze for a moment when he saw Wei Yong standing outside. Then recognition dawned, and a warm smile spread across his face as he waved cheerfully. "So it's Brother Wei and Duke Wei. Why are you standing outside? Come in, come in." Wei Yong, however, urgently gestured for him to step out instead, lowering his voice anxiously. "Come out quickly. I need to tell you something. Something huge has happened at Imperial College." Inwardly, Wei Yong was extremely worried. He believed Qin Mu had wandered here by accident, unaware that this was the very place where the Heavenly Devil cult was carrying out its vengeance. Brother Qin must have come here for a stroll, he thought nervously. He doesn't know this is where the Heavenly Devil cult is taking revenge and walked straight into danger. Those fiends killed Sun Nantuo, a first-ranking official and a cult master-level expert, in an instant. If they catch Brother Qin, they'd squeeze every drop of marrow out of him before he even knows what happened. Meanwhile, Duke Wei glanced at the two elderly figures silently blocking the way behind him. A vein bulged on his forehead, and the corners of his eyes twitched. "Wei Yong, this brat, he causes even more trouble than I ever did. At this rate, even if I want to leave, I can't." At that moment, Qin Mu casually lifted a hand, and the old woman standing behind Duke Wei immediately stepped forward. Qin Mu leaned slightly toward her and whispered a few instructions. Soon after, the old woman returned, smiling broadly. "Duke Wei, young master of the Wei family, please come inside and take a seat." Duke Wei stared at Qin Mu for a long moment, his eyelids twitching, then after a deep breath resigned himself. "Let's go in." As the two followed Qin Mu into the village, they noticed everything looked newly built. Fresh wooden structures surrounded them, and the scent of newly cut timber still lingered in the air. Qin Mu continued walking deeper inside, and Duke Wei and Wei Yong had no choice but to follow. Duke Wei leaned closer and whispered, "Yonger, how close are you with this Qin Mu?" Wei Yong puffed out his chest. "We've gone through life and death together. He saved my life when the scholar's ship was attacked by Dragon Rider sect." Duke Wei felt a headache forming. "And did you save him in return?" Wei Yong shook his head. "Then what life and death bond are you talking about? He saved you, you didn't save him." Duke Wei's anxiety deepened. "Step by step, I'll just have to handle things as they come. That brat has dragged me into this mess. I wonder if my few meetings with Li Tianxing will help at all." Soon they reached the center of the village where a wooden platform stood only about a foot above the ground and roughly 10 yards across. With hundreds of Heavenly Devil cult followers sitting quietly beneath it, the old woman chuckled and gestured. "Duke Wei, young Master Wei, please sit. Don't worry, we just cleaned the floor, it's very clean." Wei Yong glanced down and noticed faint dark red stains still visible on the ground. Muttering under his breath, "I wonder if they cleaned everything, or if a head or two is still lying around somewhere." The Heavenly Devil cult had wiped out Nantuo Side Palace and killed Sun Nantuo in the blink of an eye. And their strength was terrifying. Even Duke Wei, a veteran of countless battles, did not dare relax, even with such a huge operation. The capital's experts probably didn't even notice. He thought grimly. They moved too fast. If they wanted, killing us now would be just as easy. Everyone beneath the stage sat silently, waiting for the sacred teacher's instruction. Wei Yong suddenly spotted Qin Mu and waved enthusiastically. "Brother Qin, over here." Duke Wei nearly fainted from fright, wishing he could shove a sock into the boy's mouth to stop him from talking. But fortunately the cult members ignored the shouting and remained seated. Qin Mu smiled at Wei Yong and calmly walked up onto the stage. Wei Yong panicked and whispered hoarsely, "Don't go up there. That's where their sacred teacher gives lectures." Duke Wei glared fiercely. "Shut up." Wei Yong instantly fell silent as Duke Wei hissed, "Haven't you noticed how quiet I've been this whole time? How did I end up with such a loud-mouthed descendant? Don't you understand yet?" Wei Yong froze, and at that moment Qin Mu turned around on the stage. Every member of the Heavenly Devil cult immediately stood and bowed in unison. "Greetings, Cult Master Sacred Teacher." Qin Mu nodded calmly. "Be at ease. Sit." Everyone sat down again while Wei Yong's mouth hung open, his eyes blank with shock as realization slowly dawned. Duke Wei sighed softly. "I knew something was strange about Pongong So. His Grand Shaman Ruda scriptures were different. So it was the Heavenly Devil cult master acting personally. Choosing such a young man as cult master, they truly have nerve." On stage, Qin Mu sat and asked, "Who here is skilled in soul-searching techniques?" A woman stood and bowed. Sacred teacher, I have some experience. Qin Mu nodded and immediately cast Soul Guide. A sinister gate appeared behind him as black fog poured out, extinguishing even the light of nearby lamps. Within the darkness stood Sun Nantuo and several monks, their souls trapped beyond the gate. Qin Mu said calmly, Hall Master, find out who assisted Sun Nantuo in harming our two heavenly kings. Understood. The female Hall Master stepped forward, raising a shining mirror whose light pierced Sun Nantuo's soul, revealing scenes from his memories that rapidly rewound until reaching the ambush against Heavenly King Lu. Right Guardian Shui Baiye began recording names, her expression darkening at the final one. And Eternal Peace Empire's Crown Prince, Ling Yusha. Qin Mu nodded calmly. Record them all, we'll send them on their way when the opportunity comes. Even Duke Wei trembled, for they were planning to assassinate the Crown Prince himself. Yet he dared not speak, they truly have nerve. On stage, Qin Mu sat and asked, who here is skilled in soul-searching techniques? A woman stood and bowed. Sacred teacher, I have some experience. Qin Mu nodded and immediately cast Soul Guide. A sinister gate appeared behind him as black fog poured out, extinguishing even the light of nearby lamps. Within the darkness stood Sun Nantuo and several monks, their souls trapped beyond the gate. Qin Mu said calmly, Hall Master, find out who assisted Sun Nantuo in harming our two heavenly kings. Understood. The female Hall Master stepped forward, raising a shining mirror whose light pierced Sun Nantuo's soul, revealing scenes from his memories that rapidly rewound until reaching the ambush against Heavenly King Lu. Right Guardian Shui Baiye began recording names, her expression darkening at the final one. And Eternal Peace Empire's Crown Prince, Ling Yusha. Qin Mu nodded calmly. Record them all, we'll send them on their way when the opportunity comes. Even Duke Wei trembled, for they were planning to assassinate the Crown Prince himself. Yet he dared not speak. The Heavenly Devil cult was ancient and powerful, far older than Eternal Peace Empire itself, and their vengeance for slain heavenly kings would not be stopped. The search continued, revealing another accomplice in the attack on Heavenly King Qian, Master Ruo Piao, the current Crown Prince's junior protector. Qin Mu calmly ordered, write down his name as well. Since New Year is near, let them enjoy their final reunion dinner. As for Nantuo Monastery, guardians and elders, erase it completely. All acknowledged the command, and Duke Wei exhaled in relief, seeing that Qin Mu was acting rationally by eliminating targets one by one to avoid suspicion. Just as Sun Nantuo's death had been perfectly executed without leaving a trace. At that moment Qin Mu looked toward Duke Wei and Wei Yang with a smile, making Duke Wei's heart leap into his throat. Qin Mu asked gently, Duke, your voice carries very far, doesn't it? Does Duke think our method of killing Sun Nantuo was clean and swift? Duke Wei immediately understood the implication. They could silence him before he even screamed. He swallowed hard. I once had a close friendship with Cult Master Li. Qin Mu glanced at the guardians, and Shui Baiye replied plainly. They met a few times. Not close. Duke Wei's face darkened as he quietly searched for an escape route. Qin Mu then spoke solemnly. Our cult has 2 vacant Heavenly King seats. Duke Wei belongs to no sect, so nothing prevents you from taking one. Duke Wei forced a laugh. I'm an Imperial Duke with official duties. How could I find time for such a role? Qin Mu smiled warmly. It's mostly a title. Even I'm usually idle. And if Duke declines, we won't force you, as long as you swear to keep today's events secret. The cult members laughed with Qin Mu, though their smiles looked ready to turn deadly at any moment. I'm willing, Duke Wei blurted out immediately. Wei Yang hesitated. Duke, shut up. Duke Wei snapped. You dragged me into this mess. If you hadn't shouted, we'd have left safely. Wei Yang pouted, but they said we could leave. And Brother Qin is kind-hearted. Not some villain. Duke Wei blinked. If he isn't a villain, how did he become the cult master of the Heavenly Devil cult? Qin Mu coughed lightly. Heavenly Saint cult, not Heavenly Devil cult, and I am the sacred cult master. Remember that. Heavenly King Wei. Wei Yang suddenly brightened. Old father, Heavenly King sounds way more impressive than Duke. Brother Qin, give me a position too. Duke Wei rolled his eyes at the chubby youth before him, feeling both speechless and helpless at how this brat enjoyed chaos after dragging him into danger and still wanted to jump deeper into it. Qin Mu calmly scanned the surroundings and ordered, Heavenly King Yu, Heavenly King Shi, Please explain the rules of our sacred cult to Heavenly King Wei. As for everyone else, dismantle everything here. Leave no trace behind." Wei Yong and Duke Wei immediately stood up as shadows flickered across the village and figures moved with astonishing speed. Within moments the lively settlement was efficiently dismantled. Wooden planks and pillars neatly stacked while iron woks, kerosene lamps, and cooking stands were carefully put away as if the village had never existed. Several hallmasters unfurled enormous flags and draped them over piles of materials. And when the flags were lifted again, the stacked wood and pillars had completely vanished. Other hallmasters used the same method to cover the corpses of the Nantuo monastery monks. And when the flags were removed, the bodies too disappeared without a trace. Elsewhere, cultivators shoveled away large sections of soil and cast them into Mud River where strong currents carried everything away. In a remarkably short time all signs of the bustling night market were erased, leaving no trace that crowds and laughter had once filled the place. Qin Mu calmly gave the final command. "Disperse." Hundreds of hall masters and guardians bowed respectfully before vanishing in different ways, some disappearing beneath sweeping flags, others concealing themselves in robes, melting into darkness, beating flower drums as they vanished, or quietly pushing away single-wheel carts, until the noisy scene became a silent wasteland, leaving only Qin Mu, Wei Yong, Duke Wei, and the two heavenly kings behind. In the distance, lights still flickered as the true night market outside the city gate continued its lively business. Qin Mu rose and departed, leaving the four behind while Heavenly King Yu and Heavenly King Shi explained the cult's rules to the newly joined Duke Wei to prevent mistakes. On his way back, Qin Mu slowed his pace and enjoyed the festive atmosphere of the capital. Lanterns illuminating streets filled with scholars and maidens reluctant to return home. Literati displaying poetry, martial artists showing skills, and cheerful laughter echoing through the air. The capital truly is a splendid place, Qin Mu murmured, feeling moved. At that moment snowflakes like drifting goose feathers began falling from the sky, settling softly on the shoulders of those still wandering the streets as people looked up in surprise and exclaimed at the beautiful snowfall. Under the glow of lanterns, the snow sparkled brilliantly while maidens stood beneath shop eaves stretching out their hands to catch the flakes. And instead of dispersing the crowd, the snowfall drew even more people outdoors. It's snowing, the year is nearly over. Imperial College should soon release the students for the new year. I wonder if Granny and the others have returned to the village. Qin Mu thought quietly. Steam rose from food stalls lining both sides of the street, carrying tempting aromas through the cold air as Qin Mu sat down at one stall and called out, "Boss, 2 bowls of minced meat noodles. Extra chili oil." The owner responded, "Coming right up." Soon, 2 steaming bowls arrived, their surfaces covered with red chili oil. Pieces of pork mixed perfectly between lean and fatty cuts floating among noodles and garlic shoots, filling the air with fragrance. Qin Mu took a bite, the spicy heat invigorating him. And since he had eaten only once that day, he quickly devoured the noodles, warmth spreading through his body. Just then, laughter rang beside him. "Old brother Qin, finally found you. You promised to build my iron shell ship, don't think you can run away now." "Boss, 4 bowls of noodles, extra spicy." "He's paying." The speaker sat across from him, and Qin Mu looked up with a smile. "Brother Fan Yunxiao, what brings you to the capital?" It was Fire Bandit Fan Yunxiao, the familiar knife scar still stretching across his left eye, though Qin Mu suspected it was fake. Fan Yunxiao sighed heavily. "Don't even mention it, my luck has been terrible. My ship literally fell apart midair. Everyone nearly died, and I had to exhaust myself saving them. Then I couldn't even bring them here, so I had to compensate them all. Nearly bankrupted me." He gulped noodles and continued, "I looked for you this morning, but you weren't at Imperial College. Then I spotted you here. You must help me build another ship. Now that the world's peaceful again, I'm going back to business." Qin Mu's expression turned odd. Knowing Fan Yunxiao's business meant returning to banditry. "Do you have enough black iron, black copper, money, and the ship blueprint?" Qin Mu asked. "All ready. I bribed a registrar and got the flying ship blueprint. Materials are waiting in a shipyard by Mud River. I'm broke now, this ship is my only hope." Qin Mu nodded. "Fine, I'll finish it before Imperial College's holiday. Come find me tomorrow." He paid with a great abundance coin and left. The stall owner, stunned, said he had no change. But Qin Mu waved it off. Fan Yunxiao watched him leave in amazement. So rich, unaware of the coin's true value. Qin Mu walked off casually. Though for ordinary people such a coin was a fortune. The next day, they went to the shipyard, where workers everywhere smelted metal, forged components, and assembled machinery with vital qi, making the place extremely lively. Fan Yunxiao had rented a huge factory space, but the registrar warned he could only use it for 10 days. After bribery settled the matter, Fan Yunxiao nervously asked Qin Mu whether 10 days would be enough. Qin Mu studied the blueprint and made several modifications before saying, "I'll need helpers, and while we work, you are forbidden to enter. If you do, you'll pay the price." Though confused, Fan Yunxiao agreed. Soon, Hu Linger summoned reinforcements, and hundreds of Heavenly Devil cult members arrived under teleportation flags, led by Nature Craft Hallmaster and Carpentry Hallmaster. After reviewing the plans, they confidently declared they could build 5 ships in 10 days. Qin Mu hesitated due to material shortages, but the halls supplied additional materials, and construction began immediately. For several days, Fan Yunxiao hovered outside, curious yet obedient, while heavy snowfall blanketed the capital. Eventually, unable to resist his curiosity, he peeked inside, only to have an 8-armed, 4-faced devil god suddenly grab him. "Brat, how dare you peek?" Terrified, Fan Yunxiao cried, "Old brother Qin, it's me." Inside, hundreds of cult members stared at him, and upon seeing their clothing, Fan Yunxiao panicked. "Heavenly Devil cult? I saw nothing. I'm blind. Where am I?" Qin Mu walked over calmly. "Brother Fan, I warned you. Now you've put me in a difficult situation." Raising 2 fingers, he said with a smile, "2 choices. You know what they mean. I'm in. I joined the cult." Fan Yunxiao shouted immediately, and Qin Mu laughed, releasing him. "Then from today on, we're brothers." Meanwhile, in the Crown Prince's palace, urgent news arrived that Nantuo Monastery had been annihilated, the Grand Preceptor dead, and no clues left behind, with rumors blaming Roland's Golden Palace and pushing the Emperor toward war. The Crown Prince's face darkened. No trace? Father simply doesn't want to investigate. This was the Heavenly Devil cult's doing. Only they could execute such a perfect strike. He coldly ordered, "Go to Great Thunderclap Monastery. I want to know who the new cult master is." Then he added with killing intent, "I'll make an example of someone. Anyone who dares touch my people will be eradicated. Your Highness, the Heavenly Devil cult still stands as one of the 3 greatest sects in the world. Even though they have been without a cult master for 40 years. Their strength remains formidable and cannot be ignored." The middle-aged man warned gravely, adding that their unity over decades without leadership proved their terrifying cohesion. Unlike other great sects which could never survive so long without a leader. The Crown Prince shook his head calmly. "I do not underestimate them. A sect capable of silently wiping out Grand Preceptor Sun Nantuo and all monks without leaking a single clue is not weak. But I need not personally fight them." Seeing the man's confusion, he continued, voice lowering, "The Tao sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery hate them more than we ever have. What if the Emperor ceased opposing those sects? What if the Imperial Preceptor were removed? Would they not ally with the Emperor then?" Realization dawned on the middle-aged man as the Crown Prince continued coldly, explaining how the Emperor's excessive trust in the Imperial Preceptor threatened the Ling family's rule, and how even his 8th uncle had sacrificed his reputation and life to counter the growing danger. Emotion surged as the Crown Prince slammed the table, tears in his eyes, declaring he would bear the name of an unfilial son if necessary to protect the dynasty. Pacing as he swore he would seize the throne before their inheritance fell into another's hands. Meanwhile, at the shipyard, craftsmen of Nature Craft Hall and Carpentry Hall spent 10 days constructing 5 flying ships, installing pill furnaces forged by Qin Mu and modifying their internal structures, equipping each vessel with multiple furnaces and bronze beast propulsion systems to handle their heavier iron construction. Wood grain patterns were painted on the iron hulls to disguise them as ordinary ships. Fan Yunxiao excitedly circled the vessels, only to learn he would receive a smaller ship, which Qin Mu explained was faster and more economical for bandit operations. After some reluctance, he accepted. Qin Mu sent the large ships away first and prepared the remaining small ship for himself, reminding Fan Yunxiao that Bandit Hall could seize wealth but must never take lives or dishonor women. A code Fan Yunxiao proudly swore he had always followed. Soon, The iron ship rose into the air, bandits cheering before retreating indoors to escape the freezing wind. Qin Mu then returned toward the capital with Dragon Qilin, Hu Linger, and Dushan Devil Kane, noticing that despite snowfall ending days earlier, the sun had still not appeared. As New Year approached, festive decorations filled the city. Yet numerous flying ships carrying soldiers and officials ascended not toward battlefields but straight into the clouds. Back at Imperial College, scholars discussed holiday plans, ignoring the ominous sky above. Soon, Gu Linyuan announced the New Year holiday. Cheers erupted, yet darkness still covered the heavens as ships continued climbing upward. Far south, Fan Yunxiao finally burst through the cloud cover into sunlight above the southern sea and saw an immense dark cloud blanketing the entire Eternal Peace Empire. Back in the capital, Qin Mu prepared to return to the Great Ruins when officials summoned all ministers to court. Inside the Imperial Hall, Emperor Yangfeng anxiously addressed thousands gathered, revealing that for over 10 days the sun had vanished across the empire. Snow falling everywhere from deserts to seas. Before rising and pointing upward with a trembling hand, a single cloud has covered the entire territory of the Eternal Peace Empire. As soon as those words were spoken, the entire audience hall erupted into a low roar of shocked discussion. The situation sounded almost unbelievable. One single cloud blanketing the whole Eternal Peace Empire, but the impossible had truly happened. The empire's territory was vast beyond imagination, stretching 90,000 miles from east to west and 80,000 miles from north to south. Yet now, the entire land lay buried under snow, and the storm had continued relentlessly for 6 or 7 days. Such a phenomenon simply should not have been possible. Divine arts practitioners were capable of summoning wind and rain, but only within limited regions. Even the strongest experts could influence weather in only a small area. No one possessed the power to cast a spell that could affect the entire empire at once. And this was clearly no ordinary natural disaster. South of the Gold River, snowfall was extremely rare. Farther south, beyond the surging river, cold or rainy weather was almost unheard of. And in the Li River region, the climate remained warm throughout all 4 seasons. Snow was virtually impossible there. Yet this unprecedented snowfall had struck every region simultaneously. Emperor Yangfeng gave a light cough, instantly silencing the hall. His voice carried authority as he spoke. Minister of Agriculture, many officials here may not fully understand how grave this disaster is. Explain it to them. An elderly official stepped forward. As the empire's Minister of Agriculture, he oversaw farming across the entire realm. After bowing, he spoke solemnly. Your Majesty, honored ministers, villages in the north are accustomed to harsh winters. They have preparations and reserves. So this disaster will not severely affect next year's harvest there. The true danger lies in the south. He paused before continuing. After such heavy snowfall, southern farmlands will likely be completely ruined by frost. When next year arrives, those regions may produce no harvest at all. The Minister of Revenue quickly asked, when you say, the south, what regions do you mean? Everything south of the Gold River. A collective gasp swept through the court. Even Qin Mu was stunned. He knew the geography well. The Gold River flowed from the Great Ruins, cutting across tens of thousands of miles before reaching the Eastern Sea. Everything south of it accounted for nearly 2/3 of the empire's territory. 2/3 of the empire could lose its harvest. Grand Servant immediately stepped forward and bowed. Your Majesty, we should urgently redirect grain and fodder supplies from other regions to the south. Those lands have just suffered war and still require relief. Their reserves must already be exhausted. We must send aid before famine strikes. The Minister of Agriculture sighed. At present, redistribution is nearly impossible. The recent war has drained grain reserves everywhere. If we send supplies south now, they will be consumed immediately by starving populations. Once exhausted, there will be nothing left for planting next season. Then, when autumn arrives, there will be nothing to harvest. He spoke gravely. And when people have nothing left to eat, they begin eating one another. The hall turned cold. Are we supposed to let them starve? Someone demanded. Supplies must indeed be sent. The minister replied, but only in controlled quantities, enough to sustain life. Nothing more. Some grain still exists in the south, but it belongs to wealthy clans and landlords. If the court seizes their reserves, they may incite rebellion among the starving masses. Emperor Yangfeng's face darkened. I will handle the matter of the powerful families. Continue. The minister bowed again. Besides the south, Another crisis looms in the north. Winters there are always cold. But this year is far worse. Farmers have begun cutting down forests simply to survive the cold. He continued with concern. When forests disappear, mountains become unstable. Landslides, floods, and erosion will follow. Natural disasters lead to human disasters. And human disasters create more natural disasters. Yet if we forbid them from cutting trees, countless people will freeze to death. Entire families may perish. Silence filled the hall. Every option led to disaster. A single snowstorm had forced the mighty Eternal Peace Empire into a desperate dilemma. The greatest concern, the minister added, is that we do not know how long this cloud will remain. If it disperses soon, losses may be minimized, but if it persists, the empire itself may be in danger. Emperor Yangfeng leaned back heavily. Now you understand the gravity of the situation. Rebels have risen before, but I never worried. They would always be suppressed. But this cloud, this disaster threatens the very foundation of eternal peace. Ministers, do any of you have a solution? None answered, no matter how capable they were. None could dispel the cloud or melt the snow. Frustration rose within the emperor. Was a single cloud truly capable of destroying a century of effort? Then a civil official spoke hesitantly. Perhaps this disaster is heaven's anger at the imperial preceptor's reforms. The emperor exploded in fury. Drag him out and execute him. The official collapsed to his knees, shouting desperately that heaven was punishing them. But Emperor Yangfeng refused to tolerate superstition in the face of crisis. Guards dragged the man away as his cries faded. The emperor paced angrily. I need ministers who can solve problems, not fools who spread fear. These reforms are my will, not the preceptor's. If heaven is angered, let it punish me. The court trembled under his anger. Suddenly, a voice rose calmly. If the cloud cannot be driven away, why not store it instead? All eyes turned toward Qin Mu. He explained how certain spirit treasures, such as bottle gourds, could store fire or even anesthetic vapors. Perhaps similar treasures could store away the cloud itself. General Qin Jian confirmed the idea was feasible. But the army lacked enough storage gourds to cover the entire empire. Qin Mu proposed mobilizing divine arts practitioners across the empire to create similar treasures. Officials, cultivators, and military experts could cooperate region by region to store the cloud. The emperor hesitated, noting that wandering practitioners might ignore imperial orders. Qin Mu suggested the emperor personally lead the effort. If the emperor acted, others would follow.